The men's and women's basketball teams are continuing to struggle this season. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. The volleyball team is entering playoffs, and we've got some high hopes for them. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. We've got a lot to talk about this week with a tournament-bound team and a national qualifier.
And later, our very own Isaiah hits the desk for Explorer Report to talk about some playoff volleyball action.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1, LaSalle has an Explorer going to the NCAA Cross Country Championship. Grace Mancini qualified to the championship this past weekend at the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional. The junior finished second in the 6K with a personal time of 21 minutes and 9 seconds in a field of over 200 runners. The national championship will be held this weekend in Madison, Wisconsin. Mancini is the first runner from LaSalle to qualify to the championship since Morgan Zeckley in 2015.
Number 2, this weekend meant another broken record for the volleyball team. This weekend, senior libero Jensen Sheritz broke the school record for career digs against Dayton. The senior registered 13 digs, which brought her career total to 2,087, breaking a 12-year-old record previously held by Carolyn Judge. Sheritz leads the conference in digs with 537 and digs per set with 5.4. Her performances helped steady the Explorers as the team had one of its best seasons as a program. The Blue and Gold finished the season 17-11 with a conference record of 9-5. The Explorers clinched third place in the A10 and will head to Virginia this weekend for the A10 tournament.
Number 3, sticking with volleyball, the team has earned 8 different honors. Maddie Cook received All-Academic Team, Devin Cora received All-Conference First Team, Katie Wood earned both Setter of the Year and All-Conference First Team. Another 2 awards went to Jensen Sheritz with All-Conference Second Team and All-Academic Team. Freshman Lizzie Osborne received All-Rookie Team, and finally Coach Caitlin Schweihofer received Coach of the Year. Congrats to the volleyball team on so many great recognitions.
That does it for this week's headlines. Now let's see how our Explorers have fared this week. Men's basketball hosted its annual homecoming game against Lafayette on November 14th. Isaiah Clark tells you how it all went down.
Men's basketball held their home opener against Lafayette at Tom Goal Arena on November 10th. The Explorers started off hot, leading 11-0 just 2 minutes into the first half. But Lafayette came right back and battled LaSalle all the way to the buzzer. By halftime, the lead was cut down to 3 with a score of 37-34. A free throw from Tracy Carter put LaSalle up 76-74. Unfortunately, Lafayette converted a 3-point play with 10 seconds left to edge out the Blue and Gold 77-76. Despite the loss, Coach Ashley Howard was optimistic about what he saw from the team.
It's a tough loss, just for all the obvious reasons. Homecoming weekend, we got a great crowd here. But honestly, I'm proud that our guys battled to the end, man. They played hard. We got a young team that's learning each other, and the more opportunities we get to be a part of close, deciding games like this, I think the better it's going to make our team. A lot of valuable teaching points, and I'm excited to get back to practice tomorrow. I know our guys are excited to get back to practice tomorrow, and it's just a process that we're going through. We believe in it.
Pookie Powell finished the game with 26 points, while Tracy Carter had 3 steals. The loss brings LaSalle's record to 0-2 on the season. For SportsLine, I'm Isaiah Clark.
The team then traveled to Gainesville to take on the Florida Gators. LaSalle briefly led in the first half, but were quickly overpowered by the Gators. Florida led for the rest of the first half, leading 40-32. The Gators pulled away in the second half and led by as many as 24. The Explorers attempted a last-minute comeback, but their efforts proved too little too late, and they fell to the Gators 82-69. Pookie Powell once again led all scorers with 21 points, while Jared Kimbrough had 8 rebounds.
The women's team have not seen much success so far this season as they currently sit at an 0-3 record after losses to Robert Morris and Harvard. Shayla Sweeney was one of the only bright spots against Robert Morris as the freshman scored a career high of 11 points during the game. The team could only hold up against their opponent for the first 5 minutes of play before RMU ran away with the score, ultimately defeating the Explorers 67-39. Another tough loss came at the hands of Harvard on Wednesday. The second half of play brought a 5-0 run for the Explorers. However, that quick battle in the second wasn't enough as the Explorers fell by a staggering 88-43.
The volleyball team finished their regular season with 2 straight losses against Dayton and St. Louis. LaSalle struggled against Dayton but kept the score close in all 3 sets. Even though it was a tough match, Jensen Sheritz had a big night on the court. Sheritz had 13 digs on the night. After falling to Dayton, LaSalle was looking to turn things around against St. Louis, but the Billikens took control of the game early on. LaSalle tried to fight back, but were unable to do so, as St. Louis swept the Explorers in 3 straight sets.
The women's cross-country team competed in the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional on November 9th and placed 11th among 30 teams. As we said in the headlines, Grace Mancini was the big story to come out of the regional as she finished 2nd in the 6K. The junior was the only student from LaSalle to qualify for the Nationals. Her freshman twin sisters, Liz and Eleanor, also finished in the top 100 at regionals. Liz finished in the 30th with a time of 21 minutes, 52 seconds, while Eleanor finished 88th in 22 minutes, 56 seconds.
The men's cross-country team placed 7th out of 24 teams at the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional at Penn State this past weekend. 3 Explorers finished in the top 50, and an additional 3 placed in the top 100 in a field of 160 runners. Sophomore Luke Jasku-Zarakovsky was the first Explorer to cross the finish line, as he placed 35th with a time of 32 minutes and 10 seconds. Ryan James was not too far behind, as he finished 38th with a time of 32 minutes and 17 seconds. Freshman Ibrahim Kadir placed 41st, clocking in at 32 minutes and 24 seconds. Nathan Gillis was 57th with a mark of 32 minutes and 43 seconds. Joe Boyle came in 75th place, while Anthony Hawthorne placed 83rd.
The men's swimming team traveled to the University of Delaware for a tri-meet with UD and Ryder. Junior Marcus Forsgren earned 2 individual victories in the 100 breast and the 100 free. Freshman Zachary Walbert also won 2 events in the 200 fly and the 200 IM. The other individual winners were senior Kyle McKelvey, who took home the gold in the 200 free, and sophomore Christoph Raz, who took first in the 200 breast. The blue and gold also took home the 400 free relay race, with McKelvey and Forsgren joined by freshman Daniel Johnson and freshman Ian Ventnor. Overall, the men's teams won 9 events, earning a 181-105 dual win over UD, but falling to Ryder.
The women's swimming and diving team also had a tri-meet against Delaware and Ryder. Unfortunately, the Explorers did not make much of a splash in the meet, as the squad finished 3rd of the 3 teams. The odds just were not in LaSalle's favor, as they fought hard in each event but were unable to reign victorious. In the lone exception, junior Carrie Horan shot ahead in the 100 breasts and brought home the only gold on the women's side. In diving, Phoebe Shea continued her standout freshman season with a 2nd place finish in the 1-meter dive with a score of 214.3.
Men's and women's rowing finished the fall season with the Philadelphia Frostbite Regatta. The men's varsity 8 finished 5th of 6, defeating Ithaca College in the 2nd heat with a time of 6 minutes 15 seconds. On the women's side, the varsity 8 finished 3rd of 4 boats, beating Binghamton by over a minute with a final time of 7 minutes 36 seconds. In the varsity 4 events, the men finished 3rd in their heat, coming in 6th of 11 boats overall with a time of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. The women finished in the top half of 8 boats after coming in 2nd in their heat with a time of 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Well, that's all we've got for recaps for this week, but stay tuned because when we come back, Tegan will be talking about the life of a LaSalle basketball legend.
Welcome back. I sat down with David Grzybowski, a 2013 graduate of LaSalle, to talk about his new book, Mr. All Around, which describes the life of the legendary Tom Gola. Check it out. Hi there, I'm here with David Grzybowski. He's a LaSalle grad and the author of Mr. All Around, The Life of Tom Gola. David, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, like I said, you're a LaSalle grad. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your history here, what your major was when you were here, what you've gone on to do after that?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of cool to be back here on LaSalle TV and SportsLine. So I was a graduate of 2013. It was a communication major, journalism, communication degree. I lived in this studio for 4 years, which is kind of cool. It's kind of awesome to be back on campus. Just was in the TV field for a few years, worked at Channel 17 here in Philadelphia. Then I went down to Raleigh, North Carolina. I worked at CBS North Carolina down there for a year. And in the midst of that, actually while I was at LaSalle, I started to write the book, Met Gola. And here we are 5 years later with the book, and it's out. It's out now, and people get a copy, and really proud. And it's kind of a cool, unique feeling to kind of write a book and see it come to fruition. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, so you're talking about the book. This is the book here. So what really got you into writing the book? What was your inspiration for writing the story about a guy that's such a fantastic character for the school and for the state, really?
Yeah, so ironically, I did a senior project here at LaSalle on the history of the LaSalle Explorer mascots. Brother Joe Gravenstein, who is the university archivist, said that he had a relationship with Gola, and I said, can I meet him? So I did 2 collegiate articles at the time on him and kind of what Gola was doing, because a lot of people didn't hear from him at the time. And they came out. That's when LaSalle made it to the Sweet 16. One thing led to another. Kept in contact with his wife, and Brother Joe said out loud one day, someone should write a book about Tom Gola. And I guess I took that to heart. I've always admired guys that are in the journalism, TV field that have their main job, and they also have a side hustle where they do a book or something, or a documentary or anything. So I kind of put my head down and said I was going to do it. Asked his wife Caroline for the blessing to write the book. One thing led to another, and then started it actually 3 months before he passed away. And then I just kind of put my head down and finished the book, interviewed a lot of people, almost 125 people for the book, and here we are today.
Yeah, so you talked about all those people that you interviewed. There has to be some really cool experiences there, really interesting individuals that you talked to. I mean, he's such an influencing basketball player, LaSalle grad, and he went on to be a politician for the state of Pennsylvania. So there's got to be a lot of interesting moments there. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, so I talked to anyone from local politicians, teammates, even down to Bob Cousy, Jerry Lucas, Tommy Heisen, Bob Pettit. All these guys are Hall of Famers. Right. Which I wanted to do with this book is to get it in, not just throw out stats and statistics and hey, LaSalle won this game, they lost this game. I wanted to give them more interpersonal experience of Gola, who he was as a person. There's things that I didn't even know about prior to talking about Gola. 1964, it was kind of a dream team before the dream team, kind of the Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson team. But this happened in '64. Gola was a part of a team that went overseas with Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, that played other national teams. So that was kind of cool to unwind. But yeah, it was really neat to get it, like you said, talk to people and get a behind-the-scenes look of his life off the court as a politician, and just kind of show the person he was as a father, as a person that had a big kind of state-like figure to him. When he walked in the room, you knew Tom Gola walked into the room. So it was kind of cool to not just go beyond his personal life, but go behind basketball as well. So it was neat to kind of correlate that angle to his life.
Yeah, of the people that you talked about, who do you feel like was the most interesting? Who had the most to say about him? Like, who told you the most that you were like, wow, that's awesome?
Yeah, I think everyone at the same time really said the same thing about Gola, that he, like you said, when he walked into a room, you kind of understood that he had that presence and persona, that celebrity figure about him. I guess, he was a people person. Right. He was Philadelphia through and through. Even when he played for the New York Knicks, he still lived in his Philadelphia home and traveled to New York. So that just shows the kind of personality person he was. I just think, like I said, he was a bright guy. He was a personable dude who just, grabbed life by the horns and just, just winged it and gave everything he could in politics, in basketball, and in life. So I think at the end of the day, people realized he was a good person, not only just in the LaSalle community, but in Philadelphia as well.
Yeah. So you've done a few now, events at the school, marketing the book. What is the reception like from students and the school itself and alumni? How has that helped your book and helped you with the marketing of the book?
Yeah, it's been really, it's been a blessing, honestly, to get to the feedback and love from the LaSalle community, from Dr. Hanich to Bill Bradshaw, the athletic director. Everyone has been liking this book, which has been great. It's the first book, I think, about the basketball program and about Tom Gola himself. So it's kind of cool to see that, it's a good timing for the book with Coach Ash Howard and stuff. The programs kind of have a resurgence. People are now reinvested in the program a little bit more than they were in the past. So it's good timing to have this book come out on top of that, leading up to the season. And it's kind of cool to get people that really respect the book and like what it is. And Gola's the all-time leading rebounder in NCAA history.
Right.
So I don't think a lot of people know about that. So it's kind of cool to show that LaSalle has a rich history, and it starts with Gola, and it goes on to other players in the program as well.
Yeah. So we're talking about the past. You touched on the present a little bit there. What are your feelings on the program as it stands right now and the direction that it's going in?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Coach Ashley Howard is doing a great job so far. Obviously, it's not to the best start, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Right. And I think that it's going to be a great couple years with him. I hope he stays here for a long time. He's a great recruiter. That was the main thing that a lot of people said about him when he was at Villanova with Jay Wright, that he knows how to recruit. He has those connections. And I think it's not going to happen in the first year, but I think in a year or two, you're going to see some contending teams once he gets a full roster of recruits in here. He's recruiting guys that I don't think LaSalle could have recruited in the past. Right. From Philadelphia area, as well as others in the state and the surrounding states. So I think the people have to be patient with him, and I think they're building a culture, which I think is the most important thing right now for LaSalle.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about Tom Gola, who's seen as the all Philly guy. Everything he did was Philly. And you can kind of say the same thing with Ashley Howard. So that's a very interesting way to spin this new program, is bring a Philly guy in and let's get back to playing Philly basketball, Big Five basketball.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that Philadelphia is such a, obviously Big Five's here, but it's such a basketball-oriented town. I lived in Raleigh for a year, and obviously you have Duke, UNC, North Carolina State, NC State, but Philadelphia really is the mecca of college basketball, in my opinion, with all the plethora and all the programs and the rich history, the Villanova championships, and LaSalle's great teams, and Penn's, and the list goes on and on. So I think, it's good timing, and Philadelphia has a very underrated basketball program, or basketball culture, I guess.
So what's the future for you? What is your next step? What are you looking to do? Are you keeping writing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I ask myself that every day. I guess it just depends on the next opportunity. I would love to write maybe another book. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it actually motivates me to write another one. So we'll see. Stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah, a little Lionel Simmons action coming up next,
see.
maybe?
We'll see.
Awesome. Well, that does it for us. Dave, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to send it back to the desk. So David's book, Mr. All Around, The Life of Tom Gola, came out today. Go ahead and get yourself a copy of it. I read the first chapter last night. It's an interesting start to the book. Obviously, I haven't gotten through all of it yet. But I can't wait to learn about Tom Gola. And we hear about him a lot, being LaSalle students, and the arena obviously is named after him. But you don't know the things that he did, and you don't understand how he was as a person, and the importance of a basketball player that he was.
Yeah, and I just find it so fascinating that David didn't graduate too long ago. He was kind of just in our shoes a couple years ago, and then he went on this ginormous quest, which had to be a lot because Gola has done so much, or did so much in his life. Yeah. So he went on this quest to write this book, and I think it's super awesome. And I love how he's back, and he's giving people books and explaining it, and I think it's a really cool thing for LaSalle. Yeah,
like you said, he was here for homecoming, giving out books, was doing a little book, not signing, but a book tour, I guess, of the university.
It's like good timing too, because with like the transition that LaSalle basketball is going through, like he came and kind of brought us back to our roots a little bit. So I think it was really cool.
Right, and I think that's important to touch on real quick. Me and Dave talked a lot about the past and Gola and the history of the program, but we haven't talked a lot about what's going on currently. And right now they're struggling. It's not a great look for us right now. 0-3. I mean, obviously you don't expect a rebuilding team to be 3-0 at this point. You don't expect us to go to Florida last night and win. It just is not how that works.
It's not how it works, but it's also heartbreaking.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so frustrating to watch.
Absolutely.
I mean, that homecoming loss was so difficult to swallow.
That is a bad loss. That is a really bad loss for us. Lafayette is not a team that is a very competitive team in their conference.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be very competitive in the A10. They're not a team that we need to be losing to. But it's the beginning of a season with a new coach, new players, guys that have never played under Coach Howard. So they really need to get their groove going and maybe, I mean, they're not going to be a top of the A10 team, but maybe put a little run together and not be in the first day of A10.
Yeah.
Of the A10 tournament.
And I find that, Florida last night, we're just seeing that players we thought were going to live up to this like great potential aren't really living up. I mean, granted, it's only the third game, but like Shaggy last night.
Yeah, he had a rough night last night.
It was rough. Tracy, they're just not really, living up to it. But hopefully we can turn it around. Yeah. Anyway, getting off of basketball because I'm getting depressed. Okay. When we come back, Isaiah will be hitting the desk to talk to us about some volleyball action because they're actually doing really good.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Isaiah Clark for this week's Explorer Report.
Volleyball is looking to make an impact in its first ever appearance in Atlantic 10 tournament when it takes on Duquesne in the quarterfinal round on November 16th. The Blue and Gold earned the number 3 seed in this year's tournament after a strong season that saw them go 10-1 at home. LaSalle is coming in on a 2-game losing streak, but won their 6 previous matches, losing only 3 sets. The Explorers are hoping they can get another strong outing from junior Devin Cora, who is the team's leader in kills and ranks 3rd in the conference with 383. On the other end, 6th-seeded Duquesne comes in on a 3-game losing streak after a mediocre 12-15 finish to the season. The Explorers will have to look out for the defensive play of libero Cameron Facera, who ranks 2nd in the A10 in digs with 488, second only to LaSalle's own Jensen Sherritts. It will be a tough matchup between these two teams who split the season series with a win each. Duquesne won the first matchup 3-1, and LaSalle earned its win back with a sweep only 2 weeks ago.
All right, Isaiah. So we know this team has been pretty decent all year. Don't look at me like that. We know they've been pretty good all year, but they've been struggling the past week. Do you think they can get it back together to go take on Duquesne?
I think they can get it back together. I think after they clinched, you kind of just like got into the playoffs. So after those last 2 games didn't really mean much to them. I think they're getting back to the focus. They're in Virginia now. I think they'll be ready for this matchup with Duquesne.
Isaiah, I don't want to hear about, are they ready? I want to know from your perspective, who do you think is going to be the most important player for them? And I know you kind of touched on it, but who's your favorite? And who's going to kill it?
Well, obviously we want Devin Cora
Yeah.
to play at her best. But we also have other people that can. Madison Cook is also a great outside hitter for us. When Devin Cora and Madison Cook are paired together, that's like a barely stoppable. It's almost impossible to stop those two when they're on the court together. So obviously you want two strong outlets from those two, and obviously you can look out for Catherine Wood and Jensen Sherritts to perform.
Love it. Okay, we got picks. Tegan, take it away.
I feel like they're going to repeat their second performance against Duquesne, and they are going to sweep Duquesne 3-0. Sorry.
I am pretty positive too. I think we're going to win 3 sets to 1.
I think these two teams played close up to each other this year, so I think it's actually going to be a really close matchup. I think it's going to be 3-2 LaSalle.
You negative Nancy.
Isaiah, you're dead to me. But that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with the weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Isaiah, you're dead to me, Clark, and our entire SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game. And Isaiah's dead to us.